All right. What's up, boys? How you guys doing? All right, so I haven't been covering much of the LEC changes because we have a ton of changes in LEC and we have a lot of changes in LCS. I gotta say the LEC rumors are just way more interesting so far because, as everyone knows, LCS is cutting budget across the board. Like, you know, there was contracts as high as, I believe the highest one that I heard was 2.5 million last year for a singular player that might have played mid lane for TL last year, and also like $2 million contract that might have been the AD carry for that same team. Just ridiculous contracts being handed out last year. This year, not the case. Some of the highest contracts are like 500k. So like you're still gonna have like your odd, I mean, there's probably somebody that's getting $1 million plus, but it's not the same as last year where it was just giga inflated. So we'll start with LEC. We'll talk about everything that's already been confirmed, and then I have a few. I've got like, I think 5, maybe 6. I counted maybe 5 or 6 new pieces of information for LCS that I haven't heard people talk about, that aren't like on this, they aren't on Reddit. And obviously I'm not a journalist, you know, I'm just connected to the scene, and I generally know what's going on. But you have to understand that nothing will be confirmed until the free agency deadline, because everything right now is just verbal confirmation, right? You verbally commit to the team, and then once free agency opens, I forget what the date is. It's like, it's normally like November 20th, somewhere around there. All right, so we'll start at the beginning. What are the biggest changes in LEC? Well, I mean, there's a couple. So one of the biggest stories is obviously Reckless coming back. Another thing that I'm really surprised about is the fact that Fnatic, Upset, and Unforgiven are all teamless. That is really, really crazy to me, that Upset, Fnatic, and Unforgiven. Because, like, I mean, Fnatic, I mean, I never thought he was the best in LEC. Like, I was against that narrative, but I thought he was pretty good. He was a rookie, right? So based on where he should have been and his level of performance, definitely looked like he could have grown into a lot of rosters. And you definitely just see, like, a lot of like the old guard actually coming back in. So you have Crowny coming back in, Kabi is still here, Reckless coming back in. It's actually like you've just got a lot of LFL, to be honest, in this roster here, or in the roster of ADCs. I mean, so it's pretty interesting to see that those three don't have a team. Like Unforgiven seemed like he was the guy that had the better lane phase. He looked like just a very competent rookie. Like he was just going to be a solid LEC player. So this change is crazy to me. You're bringing back Carzzy to play with Hilly, and you're ditching Unforgiven? Like, that is just crazy to me. Like, this on paper sounds like the most int bot lane ever created. Carzzy Hillsong. This lane will die an average of 75 times per game. Upset not having a team is crazy. Well, there's different reasons for it. So Upset not having a team is because he's in a contract with Fnatic, and people don't want to have to pay buyouts, and he doesn't want to join a team. Like, he's not going to join a team that he doesn't think could win. And if a team like XL, for example, which would be a decent destination with this lineup, right? With Vetio joining, IWDominate, Xerxes, Targamas. With this type of lineup, if XL already has Patrick, and they've always really liked Patrick as an AD carry, and they could spend double or triple to get Upset, it's probably not worth it to them. Another thing that was interesting, I could talk about this one. So the rumor was that Niski was actually supposed to join BDS. So BDS, when they were creating this lineup, it was supposed to be Adam, Sheo, Niski, Crowny, Labrov. And the reason why Niski was going to be freed up is because Vetio was going to go to Mad Lions. Vetio was in conversation with Mad Lions. But then when Vetio ended up going to XL, then Mad Lions is like, well, then we're not going to give up our mid laner for nothing. Like, we're not going to go for a Reeker situation again. And then they decided to keep Niski. So now BDS is the team that actually gets here because they were expecting to build like a pretty competent team. I mean, Adam played better in LFL than, you know, he had previously. Sheo was decent. I actually watched a decent amount of this team play, like Adam, Sheo, Crowny, which are 3 BDS Academy, because obviously I watched a lot of Crowny's games. He's decent. I mean, he's not close to as good as Yike. I think Yikaru, he was the best LFL jungler to me, like by far. Thought this guy was really good. Sheo was probably second. I mean, maybe some people will throw out other names. I mean, Shladen, when he came back into LFL, is a name people will throw out. Another name would be Skeens is like hit or miss, but I think Skeens is also a pretty solid jungle. But yeah, now BDS is kind of screwed because of the mid lane situation. BDS Niski. I mean, BDS Niski. The thing about Niski is like he's a really like prized commodity for teams like BDS. Like teams like BDS definitely want players like Nisqy, because Nisqy's a player that will just make your team good like almost instantly. You know, like you put Nisqy on the team, you know your team's not going to be complete dog. Nisqy is never on a bad team. Like, just having a competent mid laner that's gonna like play the map and get you leads is good for teams that have no ability to actually get leads in games. Fnatic roster, they promoted Rux, which, I mean, I wonder how much of this is because of his performance at Worlds, where he played pretty well. But Reckless, Rux, Humanoid, Razork, and Wonder. Interesting. The thing that would be weird about this lineup is just thinking about like, well, let's start at the beginning. Razork and Humanoid never looked like they actually synergized well, or like knew what the other player wanted to do, or like had that inherent understanding of each other as players. That was always a weird part for Fnatic the entire season. Even at Worlds, it was a weird part. They're both individually really strong players, but when it comes to like them actually making each other better, it felt like that was actually the opposite. Like, it felt like they almost make each other worse. Compared to like Humanoid Elyoya, for example, the year before, that felt like they vibed. You know, they knew what each other wanted to do. Like Razork Vetio even worked better together. I just feel like the pairing is just really weird, and the fact that they're gonna run it back, I think that's pretty strange. Also, when I look at like a team with mega veterans like Wonder and like, I guess Humanoid is at this point, I mean, he's a pretty fucking veteran player, and somebody who's won. I wonder if this team is going to like have much input from their bot lane, or if it's just going to be like a weak side bot every single game thing, because Reckless, it feels like, doesn't like confrontation, and from what I've heard, doesn't like actually giving his like opinion if he doesn't feel like his opinion is valued. You know, you have to coax it out of him. So in a team where like Humanoid's going to be like, this is what we're doing, feels like that might just be it might just be the run back where Humanoid's trying to like 1v9 at Worlds next year if they make it there. Is Rogue selling the spot? They're like partnering with KOI. So KOI is a partnered so like KOI is going to get like naming rights, and I think Rogue still has some like they have like just a minority share of like the company that they're forming, something like that. But yeah, I mean, this is an interesting one. I think not renewing with IWDominate and going for Sagenda is definitely something that I wasn't expecting. Sagenda, I guess, would bring you more of potential ability to play carries, I guess. I don't really know, dude. I feel like Sagenda is good, but he was never mega impressive to me when I was watching LFL. Granted, I only watched like some of the games, but when I was watching him, I was never like, oh, this guy is like a generational talent. You know, he was just good. He's solid. I mean, I don't know if he was better than Adam in LFL. I think Adam might have been the best top laner in the league. That's rough to say, but like, maybe Adam's just better than him. Yeah, G2, we haven't talked about G2 roster. It's crazy to me that Hansama just got this role like instantly. Also, the Targamas Mickey X swap, that one's interesting because, I mean, G2 kind of f***ed over Mickey, right? Like, you remember the tweets back and forth with Mickey and Carlos during his buyout process, where they were pretty much saying two opposite things. Carlos was saying that Mickey was, you know, his buyout was reduced and this was communicated to other teams and just no one wanted to pick him up. And Mickey was saying that his buyout wasn't reduced until like it was too late in the offseason. Yeah, I mean, I guess obviously the fact that Carlos is out of G2, to finish my point, the fact that Carlos is out of G2, I think is making it more likely for Mickey X to return. Like, if you had Carlos still in G2, would Mickey X return? When I guess his interpretation and pretty much what he was saying on social media is that he got f***ed by Carlos. Hans going directly into a top team is crazy to me based off his performance. So what people say behind the scenes with Hansama is that he's like a highly sensitive person that just needs a good environment. And if you have a good environment, he'll perform like absolute top tier. But if the environment is like bad, or, you know, he's not feeling comfortable in his environment, he'll play poorly. I guess that's why people are giving him a pass for last year. But like, watching Hansama play for all of last year, it's very hard for me to like have 100% confidence that he's just going to be one of the best AD carries in LEC again. Yeah, but anyways, I mean, Targamas played pretty decently. He was considered definitely like the better part of that Flocka Targamas bot lane. Him getting removed from G2 is kind of crazy. If we're going to do just a rough rankings off what we're seeing, I mean, it really looks like G2 is just going to be on top again, but it's hard to say G2 on top when they have a rookie jungler, right? Like, you don't know how well a jungler will adapt, and a jungler can just ruin a team, right? A jungler could ruin a team. I would say G2 is probably looking like the favorites. Rogue, Koi, whatever, they're probably going to be second. This is where it gets kind of interesting because it's like Fnatic, Vitality, XL. I mean, top 5 looks pretty stacked. Outside of that, it looks like there's going to be a break between top 5 and like bottom 5. I mean, I would say like Fnatic, Vitality, and XL all look strong. I'm not sure about this team. Like, Xerxes was good on bad teams, but we haven't seen Xerxes actually have to play with a good team in a while. And some players actually play better when they have more liberty to like do what they want to do within their team, as opposed to like being forced into like a meta role. Like, hey, we have really strong laners. We need you to just play like a standard jungle game. I mean, Vitality, the reason why I don't have Vitality higher is I have no idea about like this Photon guy. And I have no idea how well Bo will actually play because I haven't seen him play competitive in 2 years. I mean, when he plays solo queue, it's really hard to like tell if he's just like, if he just actually doesn't track people on the map well, and he could, or if he just consistently wants to go for like 1v2, 1v3 situations because he has that much of a trust in his own mechanics. I think it's really hard to like judge Vitality. I mean, they probably are the team that has like the highest upside and then like potentially the lowest downside as well. They probably have, yeah, out of all the teams, they're the team that can obviously like implode. On paper, they have a really strong roster. Fnatic looks really fucking good. People are always gonna disrespect Koi, but I mean, Larson, Comp, Trimby, like these guys are going to be good in EU. These guys will definitely be solid in EU. They'll be top players in EU. Malrung will be solid as well. Zagenda is a little bit of a potential downgrade, but they're going to be the underrated team. They're just not as exciting. Like this team might just win again. This team could easily win again, but they just don't have the exciting lineup. Like, for example, like G2, I mean, this looks pretty exciting, right? Like, oh, Mickey X is back. Han Sama is on the team. He's coming back. He used to be the best AD carry in Europe like 2 years ago. Is he going to return to that form? Best jungler from ERLs and Yike. Okay. Like this guy, this team could actually be insane. Maybe. We'll see. Heretics. Okay, so let's talk about Heretics and SK, and then we'll jump into other stuff. Astralis, they're like the same team pretty much. Finn for, Finn on the team, whatever. I mean, Vizichachi was not able to lane. Finn can lane about half the time. I just feel like Finn will never be a, like, super consistent player. He'll have parts of the season where he's decent, and then he'll just, like, have parts of the season where he's shit, and that's just going to be what you get with Finn. I mean, Astralis sounds like a good team for him. All right, so Heretics and SK. I've seen people are like really hyped for this Heretics team. I mean, Jack Spectre has a lot of hype. I mean, I guess you have to see jungle, right? You have to see jungle. I'm not sure about this team though. I feel like this is probably going to be like a bottom 3 team, maybe bottom 4. But like when I look at Heretics roster and then I compare it to even like SK's roster, I think SK will actually be decent. I think that this team will actually not be that bad. Markuna is somebody who I think is really solid. I think he's definitely better than whatever jungler Heretics will have. Certus was definitely improving. He had consistent improvement throughout the year. Irrelevant was better than expected. I mean, maybe in some metas he might end up being like one of the worst top laners, but if you have like a meta that involves weak side picks, I think Irrelevant will be solid. Exekick DOS, this is obviously the question mark. This is the question mark here, but overall I think SK is probably going to be like better than expected. Heretics has hype. I don't know anything about Ruby, so I mean, we also don't know if it's actually going to be Ice Beasto. I assume it's not going to be Zanzara on this team, but I think that this team will probably start slow, which is expected when you have like a new org joining. So, I mean, that's it. Pretty much talked about all the different changes for LEC. All right, let's talk about LCS. You guys ready for some of the leaks? Let's talk about this one first. Sources, Tenacity likely to join Evil Geniuses. That Tenacity is going to be 100 Thieves top laner. That's my info. Look, hey, this guy's a journalist, right? And I'm just a fucking random crackhead, so I could be wrong. And for the jungle situation on 100 Thieves, let's start with 100 Thieves. The jungle situation on 100 Thieves, everyone is saying Spica's like guaranteed got it. But what I've heard is that Spica's actually in conversations with multiple teams, including like FlyQuest, for example, is a team that wants to build a good team on FlyQuest, right? They're deciding on whether or not to pick up somebody like Spica, and then 100 Thieves is deciding on keeping closer or not keeping closer. The reason they might decide to keep closer is because of his skill level. The reason why they might not want to keep him is because he deserves like a really big contract with how he's performed. I've heard that the 100 Thieves roster is going to be Tenacity, Bjergsen, Doublet, Busio. And then the jungle situation is between Closer, Spica, and Santorin, where it's like Closer and Spica, and then Santorin is like also in the mix, but Santorin is like somebody who might come in if like Closer and Spica decide to sign to other teams. TL. Okay, let's go to TL. So TL is one of the teams. They're going full Korean. You've got Core JJ, which has been confirmed, right? Yeon. And then Harry is their mid laner. Harry, I don't know if you guys know Harry. He was the Academy mid laner for TL. for 2 years now. 21 years old, from Australia, and they are looking for an import, top and jungle, like double import, top and jungle, both Korean. That's what they're looking for. And the good thing about this is they can actually import like straight from Korea, because Harry and Yeon are both considered domestic players, and Core JJ is a green card. So that's going to be the TL roster. Okay, let's talk about EG's roster. So all the rumors right now and like the confirmations say that Tenacity is on EG. So I've heard that this roster is going to be someday top lane with Inspired, JoJo, FBI, and Vulcan. So someday to EG and FBI to EG is what we heard. Now there's a chance that FBI does not go to EG, in which case the most likely landing spot for FBI, if he doesn't sign with EG, his landing spot would probably be Golden Guardians, where he would play with Huhi. So Golden Guardians might go FBI, Huhi bot lane. If he wants to run it back with Huhi, that's probably where it's going to be. Huhi is probably going to Golden Guardians, but we're not sure. Like FBI, I mean, FBI is pretty good for NA standards, bro. People are disrespecting FBI. Danny is most likely not playing. Yeah, Danny is most likely not playing. All the indicators are that he's not playing. What else do we have? Okay, so Cloud9 roster, I think this one's already leaked. Fudge, Blabber, Diplex, Berserker, Sven. Not much needs to be said about that. TSM is probably Solo plus Chime plus Maple, maybe, plus Random. So TSM, all you need to know about TSM is they're probably going to be terrible and like fun to hate on this year. So I mean, not super fun to hate on, because like, I mean, I think Chime is actually like pretty decent player. He's up and coming, but I mean, it's TSM, right? So I mean, they're probably going to be bad. TSM is probably going to be bad. That's all that matters, right? Doesn't matter who's actually on the roster. What matters is they're probably going to be bad. Dude, I haven't heard anything about Hoon. So there's like a few teams that I just don't really know anything about. So CLG, I've heard that they're not going to keep the same roster, but I have no clue what the that means. That's all I've heard. Oh, they're not keeping the same roster. Okay, cool. Whatever, man. Then you have FlyQuest. So FlyQuest is going to like spend big. I mean, you could probably look. There's one thing I'm not supposed to leak, but you could probably, based off what I've said with other teams, right? So you know that. So if Tenacity is on 100 Thieves and Someday is on EG, where is the extra top laner going? Probably to one of these teams that is looking to spend. I mean, FlyQuest, you can probably figure out what they're looking at. Top laner, you know, it's going to be somebody who's in the league already. And then their jungler is essentially between, like, they're trying to spend, right? So they're going to potentially get Closer or Spica or Santorin, depending on how the 100 Thieves situation goes. I think 100 Thieves kind of has priority in this situation. And if Closer decides to not sign with 100 Thieves, then all the dominoes fall, right? Then it's probably Speaker Santorin to 100 Thieves, or it's like Speaker Santorin to 100 Thieves, and then FlyQuest is going to like try to pick up Closer probably, and then if Closer somehow doesn't want to go there and maybe he wants to run it back with Golden Guardians or something, then you have like Santorin joining. So how many did I get there? I promised 5. Okay, yeah, we hit our mark. So that's pretty much what I've got for you guys. That's how things are going.